Good morning, Sussex Squad. Good morning, world. Happy Sunday. My goodness, I feel like I'm still walking on a cloud. That speech on Thursday night, I feel like I'm still in it. I'm still living it. That was history in the making. What an incredible time to be alive, to witness this incredible speech. Wow. How are you guys doing, Charles and George?
Doing pretty well. Always running, burning the midnight oil, always busy, but also very hot. These days, it's sweltering.
It is extremely humid. The humidity, that's what's getting to me.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's frizzing my hair.
Oh, dear Lord, you have no hair.
Oui, c'est ça. Bon dimanche, Sussex Squad. It is so good to be here with you on Sunday, speaking with all of you, and here with you, Lady Sussex, and as always, Charles. This is, as you said, it was history in the making, and it's one of those speeches that you can go back. Yeah, you can't even say the word speech. One of those speeches you can go back and listen to again and again. And I'm excited for us to talk about it today.
And talking about it, yes, we are. But we're also going to... Oh, my goodness.
You can tell someone's coffee hasn't kicked in yet today.
That or it's kicked in really well. One or the other.
I cannot say. I feel like I got myself into some trouble.
You did. But we have to do things out of order because of how much of a stir up you caused. We probably should start with the Church Nelly report.
I think we should.
Okay.
Charles, go ahead.
I'm locked and loaded, ready to go. So, for the Church of Nelly. First things first, we will talk about the Global Girl Media UK.
Uh-huh.
That's right. It's a non-profit, an NGO that Archewell actually helps support. And that NGO actually empowers young women to become agents of change through producing and distributing their own digital stories.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's a great idea. The young women shared unique insights into the benefits of widespread information access and proposed innovative solutions to combat bias and the proliferation of misinformation. Really interesting. Especially, there's actually a reoccurring theme that they speak about the dual nature of social media, how it democratizes information by showcasing a diverse set of viewpoints, while also exacerbating the biases through this algorithmic kind of content filtering. So it's a very interesting kind of double-edged sword here. And how it's about transitioning a state of information in 2024. The group actually discussed critical topics such as the election, unreliable news sources, deepfaked, and as well as AI-generated content. So it's pretty rich just in terms of overall information that's being shared and discussed by these wonderful young ladies. And then also the Global Girl Media UK exemplifies the power of collective dialogue and the shared action in navigating today's complex information landscape.
Isn't that incredible? I almost feel like we are now find ourselves have to learn things that we would normally left to maybe perhaps the medias, school, to inform us, to give us these, way of thinking. But now it's almost like it's left to us to actually go and learn in almost like defending ourselves or sort of prepare our own self for what's to come.
No, I think that's
what's
exactly
happening in the world.
Yeah, I think it's exactly it. I think that people have to be very self-motivated to actually understand and deliberate and decide and actively pursue facts on the internet these days, just as a result of just media and just generally the absolute volume of information that's available, of actually being able to kind of parse through and being able to dissect what's actually true and what's not.
It's honestly, it's a really important work, and I'm so glad that Archewell is supporting this, because to that exact idea of this sort of reality that we face today, it struck me for a separate reason, just actually preparing for today's service, looking through some of the different materials that we wanted to maybe discuss, and because one of them was this book specifically that some of the information on its background was hard to find, when actually going and looking for the ISBN number, and it brought me back to the very beginning of schooling in that regard, in terms of how do you make sure that you properly cite your sources, you know what's a primary source versus secondary sources, and you know how to actually give proper credit, and where you find the information in the library in the first place. And that idea of right now, that's almost completely foreign in terms of going to a library to find information as opposed to just going and searching online. And to that idea of it being a double-edged sword, it's great that you can go and find that information, but it also presents a whole bunch of challenges that is just completely unprecedented territory that we find ourselves in.
Oh, my goodness. So what else?
Yeah. So getting back to Church and Alley Report, this is something that we all know. So we're going to be speaking about quite a bit in depth, actually, later on in the episode. But Harry was awarded the Pat Tillman Award on Thursday. So such an amazing show that they put on. Serena did a fantastic job as host.
Absolutely. She was incredible.
She was fantastic.
She looked incredible.
She did look
She looked amazing. Word cannot express what that evening was. It was so many things. And I think I was listening to Queen Auntie, I think.
Queen Auntie, yep.
Queen Auntie, and then she was saying that, it was a masterclass. And it certainly was. It was so many. I think it's one of those speech that's going to live on really forever, and people going to go back to it and refer it and dissect it. And it's going to take really years to really, for someone that who sort of, love speeches, I think that what? That speech have so much layer to it. There's a significant importance to that speech. And I think it's going to take years to dissect it.
True. And, as we talked about, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to get into speaking much more about it. But I will say just at the top that it certainly was a masterclass in how to be actually gracious and what grace is.
Oh, so gracious! It was more gracious.
He was.
It was much more.
Yeah, he did an impeccable job about how he handled that entire situation, and it's going to be very interesting to see how everything kind of comes out of it. But again, we'll save that for later because we'll talk about it in much more detail. And then the last thing I'll talk about actually is something called the Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund, which again Archwell is supporting. And again, this is another just fantastic organization. The Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund is a first-of-its-kind initiative that invites youth and intergenerationally led organizations to shape the future of the technology movement.
This is certainly something you guys will know a lot about, given the space you guys occupy right now and the channel that you guys have. And so it's certainly something that you guys could actually, speak to people and inform people about it. And I'm so happy, Archwell, it's working towards that.
Absolutely. And it's just the dynamic is very interesting just in terms of the intergenerational aspect of it is very unique. And over the past year, this particular program has actually supported a cohort of 26 organizations dedicated to fostering a more inclusive and equity technology ecosystem. Mm-hmm. These initiatives tackle a range of social, cultural, political, and economic challenges with a dual focus on mitigating online harm and advancing a healthier digital environment.
That's right.
So moving forward, the fund will prioritize projects that promote mental health and well-being, ethical AI and climate change, and the Archwell Foundation specifically firmly believes in the power of young people that drives effective, innovative, and inspiring solutions to address the world's most pressing challenges. As proud members of it's called RT Youth Power Fund, is the abbreviated version of it. The Archwell Foundation has united with impact-driven funders to invest a total of $2.5 million in supporting a new cohort of visionary leaders.
Wow.
Yep. So that fund is actually now accepting applications from eligible 501c3 organizations through August 9th of this year.
That's amazing. And to your point, Lady Sussex, it's definitely something that is especially exciting for Charles and myself with the work that we do and the space that we're focused on. And also just it should be for so many people because all of these different things are so intersectional. They're so interwoven in terms of how they're coming to life and the different challenges we face. And with that sort of note, with the evolution of that fund, including more of a focus on climate, take this moment to just say a sincere thank you to all of the listeners who have come over to Charles and my channel, who have listened, subscribed, shared comments. We are so appreciative. We really can't tell you how much it means to us. And we also know that when it comes to talking about climate or sustainability, people are at different places in that journey. And that's a thing for us that we recognize as being a real important truth. And so with our channel, it's really not about debating climate change. It's not about wading into the politics of it, certainly. It's really about taking a step back and saying, look, just kind of as we were mentioning just a moment ago with the during the Church Daily Report at the beginning, that these new technologies are fundamentally changing the way we live. And it's not some distant future. It is technologies that are here today. That change the way we live and work together on a daily basis. And it is something that we need to be important. It is something that we need to know about. And it's not even just on the technology side. It's also about these other big factors, whether it is new policies or the way communities are organizing that are just completely shifting. I mean, if you look just here for U.S. listeners, but also as an example for across the world, they just passed in the last maybe 2 years ago one of the largest ever climate investment bills. And actually the largest grant component of that was just awarded, and that was $27 billion.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and it's specifically focused on deploying more renewable energy. It's about helping uplift communities that have been historically underserved. It's about really combating a lot of the challenges that we face today to the point of the fund that Archewell is supporting, a lot of them being so intersectional. And so in our latest episode, we dive into that just because, again, we know how important it is because we spend every day focusing in on that, but we also know, as it ties also to this work we do supporting Lady Sussex, that knowledge is power. People need to know about these things because it is going to affect their lives. And so we hope you join us. We just, again, want to say a huge thank you to you, Lady Sussex, for allowing us to share the work that we're doing, posting it in the channel, posting it to the community. And again, to all of you who have listened already and subscribed and supported, thank you so much.
Well, it's because not only I know that is really important, the work that you guys are doing, but I think, for me, it is really important as someone that, who been really inspired in so many ways by so many people in the squad to do the work that I'm doing right now. When you think about Michelle and Tina, you think about Baron, you think about, Claire Kane, you think about, V and so many others that who does this work and does it well. The mission of it, to me, is much more. But it's defending Harry and Meghan. It's giving them that sort of block to stand up in front of them to protect the work that they are doing, the mission that they do. But we also need to take part of that mission. We also need to encourage the mission. It's not just enough. Yes, we're going to fight every single day because we have to protect what they're doing. But we too must be involved. And that's why I support you guys. And I hope and pray our listeners, our subscribers, all are new, really sort of go to you guys' channel and truly really push that mission moving forward because it's all intertwined together.
We couldn't thank you enough.
Absolutely.
Really. And in the spirit of giving thanks and showing the appreciation that we really can't fully express, we should move honestly to our incredible members, who we have new people who have joined.
Oh my goodness.
We
Do
do.
we?
We
have
do.
a-
We have new
Oh my God.
members.
You know what? I'm sure people probably think like, really, really, Lady Sussex. I mean, like, it's not like I don't feel like I'm worthy. It's just to know that people are so kind and so wonderful to actually really appreciate what we do here and says we're willing to support you so you can continue doing it, because we certainly, when we start this channel, it was not really have nothing to do, we just wanted people to listen to us. And even with the 300, we started with 10, and we stuck for a very long time at 300. It was massive for us.
It's true.
It was really big until, of course, our angel make it happen for us. And all of a sudden that, we were flying high. We get 1,000. Oh my God. I'm still feel like, yes, I know maybe 2007 or 800 subscribers that, we have may not sort of seems to be a big deal when you think about someone like Baron that was in the 60s and many others that was in the 20s. But for me, that 2000, do you know how I think about it? I actually think about it in the term of like, a big church. So when 1,000 or 2,000 people, I'm like, we have a mega church here. So it's not something I ever thought that was going to happen, especially with someone with, when it comes to speak English, to express myself in English. It's the only language I find myself that I can write well, but yet unable to articulate myself the way I would like to, without sound like a 2-year-old.
You do fine.
Or someone that, that ESL that just coming into this country. I think it because my grammar sometimes is all over the place. And I sometimes, don't really finish my sentence. So unless you really know me to know what exactly I'm talking about, it's like, because I'm not thinking in English. And I think that's what one of my professors said. You need to think actually in English. And I know the last 2 weeks was pretty much tough for me, because with my mother, I'm speaking a lot of foreign languages that are not English. And so to get back now speaking on a microphone and try to speak English, I'm listening to myself. I didn't even understand what I'm trying to say. So to see people actually understand and want to comment and want to support that, oh my God, thank you so much. You make a girl here feel so welcome and so needed and so wonderful to be a part of this community. So I thank you all.
Truly, it is incredible to see members, subscribers, of course, and members especially that want to contribute to help make sure that the service can continue on. And we had 2 members comment last week on the episode. One of our favorites, Lydia Washington, and another favorite, Ruth C., who said, "Blessings to all. It is so wonderful to have you back, and thank you for today." And thank you both for your membership and for your support every single week. And with that, thank you also to all of the members, to Diane Hawkins, to Patricoa Marcel, to Marvel Walker, to R.R. Carter, to Bryce Thompson, Kay Castillo, April Showers, and our newest members, V. Brame and Antonio TC416. It is so wonderful to have you.
Oh my goodness.
And in terms of comments, we'll share one that are actually 2 that are not because of the ruckus you caused, Lady Sussex. But then we'll get into all of the comments because of what you stirred up. So the 2
I stirred conversation, which was incredible. It was. I
the
got
point.
nervous.
Which is
I
the
got
point, by the
nervous,
way.
but that was the point,
to
right?
provoke
The point is
discussion.
to provoke discussion and understanding.
It's true. It's also very good always to see the clarity across the Sussex squad in terms of that unity. But before we get into that, the two that are not about the stir up is one from Sylvia Fielder, who said, "I kept envisioning the people crossing over the London Bridge in a dream, and now the vision has come to fruition. The people have come together and made their voices heard. The Labour Party has won by a landslide. Love wins. God is love."
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And the other from Diane Hawkins, who said, "Thank you so much for this beautiful service, positive thoughts, and good works. For these we both love and appreciate you for your part in silencing the noisy gongs and clanging cymbals. Love wins."
Amen.
And now to get to the stir-up. So I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about this, but just to start with the reactions, the first one from Tash Mack, who said, "This was a great Sussex Sunday church service." We're starting off with one of the easier ones. "I'm grateful and restored after listening to this service. I appreciate and understand what Lady Sussex is saying regarding Harry and Charles working together on an initiative focused on the environment, but I think their relationship is a unique one that has the potential of making their relationship even more strained. Their relationship has always leaned towards a work bond instead of a familial bond that Harry has made very clear that he wants. Harry's whole life has been Charles using him to improve his image or to distract from other things or people. Them working together on an initiative would be like returning to a work relationship instead of the father and son relationship that they both need. They are unique in that they have never really had a relationship that doesn't involve working, so to have any real father and son connection, they can't allow work to be a part of the relationship."
I agree. I think obviously I'm going to wait to explain what I mean by what I said or what I meant to say. But absolutely 100% agree.
Exactly. And the next one is from Zamak Hosimpanza, 3902, who said, "I hope Harry doesn't change his chosen direction in life just to accommodate the reluctant father. Let him be the weighty Harry. Upward and onward he goes." Another one full of emotion from Elizabeth Sconius, who always comments, and thank you so much, Elizabeth, is that "I don't think Prince Harry should step back in the UK until Charles fixes the relationship with Meghan and Harry and their security. This is what should be first, but Charles will focus on the tabloids' garbage. It should be the family first, period. God, family, then the rest. I don't agree with you. You're still leaving the Duchess Meghan out with disrespect. First things first."
I'm not, I agree what she's saying, but I don't understand where the word disrespect coming from. Because I think not constantly mentioning her name on a discussion that really, not that it didn't have anything to do with her, but it wasn't about her at that moment that I was speaking. I was speaking about Harry specifically, like many of us. Sometimes, it's about Harry. Sometimes it's about her, and sometimes it's the both of them, because for me they are a team. Even if I single one out, at least in my head that I'm speaking about the both of them, because they are a team.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's unfair to say to a content creator that who literally pretty much I feel like I'm in the front line fighting for their truth. And even our channel's name, it's Meghan Markle, Real Life Cinderella, somehow is disrespectful, because that I don't bring her name on everything. Then I guess I'm doing exactly what the media does, so that I need to insert her name on everything that I say to make a point. No, I don't think I need to do that, and I would not do that. But that does not mean that, I don't understand what is at stake here, what I need to do.
Well, I think the other thing from last week's episode that we really focused in on was if we were to put ourselves in Charles's shoes. And so if you think about things from Charles's perspective, if he himself is focused on what his legacy is going to be, as you might expect a king that is more advanced in age, who doesn't have that much time to be able to shape his legacy because of the time in which he took the throne. If you're in his shoes and you're in King Charles's shoes, what would you want to do to affect your legacy? Now, that discussion of potentially being able to reconnect with Harry because of the importance that Harry, the role that Harry could play in terms of Charles being able to be an effective supporter of climate action, which was kind of the context from last week's episode, that is an idea, again, from the perspective of King Charles. It doesn't take into account whatsoever any of the rest of the context of the estrangement of the relationship or the nature of the difficulties or challenges, or, of course, as many mentioned, the need for Harry to protect his family as he's done.
I am going to explain what I was trying to get at and what was the point on how I sort of direct whether it was the question or the statement that I make that probably makes certain people feel uncomfortable or what they think that I was trying to say. I'm going to getting into that, but do you finish with
Well,
Did you finish?
there's a whole bunch of comments on this. We'll add with last one. We'll add for now, and then I know you want to share some more. But from Joanne Baker, another frequent commenter, said, "Hello, Lady Sussex. Hello, Lady Sussex, George, and Charles. I hear you when you say King Chucky should reach out to Harry, but I have to disagree with your analysis. There are extenuating circumstances. As long as Charles has Camilla and William in his ear, this will never happen. At this juncture, it only benefits Camilla and Will's if Charles and Harry's relationship remains fractured. It appears that Will and Camilla have gotten close." To which Asantewa Boateng responded, "Mostly Camilla, unfortunately."
Absolutely. I agree with everyone. I think what I was trying to get at, or maybe where my mind was, it's having this conversation in a way that everything that happened, somehow there was a way back. Knowingly, fully, I'm not naive. There's not a way back for Harry. There is not a way back for Meghan. Those are not people, regardless what the media, or anybody try to say. Those are grown folks who, being a part of a system, and for Meghan went into that system thinking that, she could bring, her life experience into it to make a difference, to inspire, and realize that wasn't just for her. She was not going to be victim by that system that who literally try in so many ways put her in a position to end it all. And to a husband that says, not only I've been thinking about leaving for a very long time, now I certainly have a reason to leave. This is not for me no more. So, no, I don't see a way back for Harry, regardless what Charles say, because there is a trust that is no more. And I think, at least for myself, listening to Spare, which we're going to get into later on, when Harry said there was a conversation that, he was having with his father and with his brother. And for the first time during that conversation, he looked at them. He didn't believe them no more. There's a lack of trust. And that lack of trust, what this father, King Charles, had allowed to happen, it's put his son in a place where he could not keeping his family safe. And with a media which he feels like was still a part of that institution and who every single day is doing everything that they can to tear this man down and his wife and his family. So, absolutely, there is no way that I could see Harry and Meghan go back to this with the life they have right now. Not as long that system continue the way it is. But it was worth reminding them in some really weird way when I said what I said, that how Charles will need Harry. Because when you think about that moment, I'm sure for him, for someone that you know who in some ways very early on talking about this kind of initiative, and the Tories are no longer in power, Charles will need to have something to make people believe or think that he is part of. I'm not articulating this well, but the point is that I think even if he will go to that route, he could not even bring that initiative in a place where people will actually really believe him without people think of him as greenwash. So he will need his son. So this is really where I was trying to get that, to make people think Charles put himself in a position for every single day of his life. He's going to have something that reminding him the mistake that he made and how much that he need his son. And he needs his son. He needs, when, Meghan, another for, in my opinion, for the monarchy to move forward. I don't see how is that even possible. And no, I did not bring Meghan because to me, when I think of Meghan, when I think of the princess that she is, the duchess that she had become and is, she have shown the world, including the royal, what it means to be a duchess, what it means to be a princess, what it means to have that kind of, I won't say power, but really having a platform. There's so much that you can do with it. And I think that, what people buy into, oh, you black or you part black or somehow, what do you know about our society? What do you know about sort of, a prestige? She not only showed that what she thinks about it, but she walked away from it. And to me, when I looked at her, she's always going to be bigger. And I think there is a reason why that the media, when they only speak, they speak about, in my opinion, they speak only about Harry. They want Harry back. And it's because they don't know what to do with Meghan. Because she literally, the playbook or the book that they have written and said, sort of, this is the way to be a princess, or what they allowed us to think what a princess or that, the royal, being a royal, what it is or what it should be. I feel like Meghan had break that ceiling and say, oh, it's all a lie. In my opinion. So no, when I think of Harry and Meghan, the work that they are doing, the work that they want to do, unless things change, unless the media circus around them the chaos, the constant chaos, the what I feel like, in my opinion, that the palace doesn't understand where they are right now with, a country, an island that, sort of, there's so many mixed interracial, you know, and yet they don't even know how to inspire these people. They still want to men that, I guess, what many people will say, old, not new, need reform. Every institution need to be reformed from time to time, if for you to move forward. And so for me, in my opinion here, and I could stand alone on this, I don't see a path forward unless everything would need to change. Everything would need to be new. And as of right now, I don't see it. So the point that I was trying to make, it's really, in some ways, calling every single people that who has been, whether bashing or the so-called men in how you call them, men in gray suits, or anyone that who looked at the royals as that prestige thing and say that hey, they have a problem. They have a race problem. They have so many issues that they're going to need to deal with. They have a young people problem, in my opinion, because they are the next generation. And if you are not connected with us, you're not connected with the youngs, I don't care who you are, you have a problem. And so I don't see how they can make it right. But I am here, we are here to ask questions. We are here to reminding them for every single time they have some silliness and what it's going to mean for them. And so it was my way to actually put it in a way that, saying to remind them. But obviously, now I'm making the point. I'm making the case. I'm explaining what I was trying to do, because that's going to lead to the rest of our service. So let's get the service started. That is a long intro.
It was, but it's also, and it was impassioned. And I think with the passion, is important to remind everyone that though we be passionate, this is not an evangelical church. This is a place where we share our ideas, and specifically, as Lady Sussex just said, we ask questions, but we are not trying to convert anyone, not trying to change anyone's religion. We're not telling anyone that they need to think exactly the way we think. We are simply sharing the things that we believe important to be shared, because we want to uplift work that we believe is good, is focused on the truth, and is trying to make the world a better place. And so that is why we're here, and we are, especially, if it's not clear already, not experts.
No, not at all. Not at all. We are here just people who want to ask questions, but who understand how powerful prayer is. And we are the witness of it. We are the witness of it. When the prayer goes up and the grace comes down. So let's get the service started.
Don't be afraid. We are a society built on love, built on tolerance, built on love for each other, acceptance. Give them love, give them love. Don't matter what you look like, don't matter what you believe, but just believe in love. I'm talking to Philly, I'm talking to London, I'm talking to DC, Paris, Berlin. And we can always be together, and we can always give love. And we want you here, as long as you bring love.
Sussex Squad, Charles and George, today I wanted to look into a word we have become very familiar with. It's the word spare. So, can you guys walk me through the meaning of this word?
Sure. So spare, and there is it's a pretty powerful word for this crowd because obviously Harry's book, and then all the connotations in terms of how that word actually truly he used that word to sum up his entire life, which is really interesting. But it actually comes, there's a lot of meaning behind it, and there's a lot of divergent meaning behind the word as well, which I found very interesting. And it can be used in many different kinds of ways. So spare actually, as an adjective, it actually comes from Old English. It was even first used before the 12th century even, so it's a very, very old word as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the first definition, what people most associate it with, and then Harry as well, is not being used especially or held for emergency use.
Mm-hmm.
The number one definition. The second is being over and above what is needed. Number three is not liberal or profuse, or used sparingly, as it would be noted. Healthily lean is the fourth. And then the fifth is not abundant or plentiful. Is obviously you don't have a lot to spare. So those are basically kind of the top five, and those are, I think, what most people kind of use it for. But again, there's actually even the transitive portion of this as well, which I found very interesting. So from the transitive verb perspective, the first definition of that is actually to forbear, to destroy, punish, or harm. Actually is what spare means. The second is actually to refrain from attacking or reprimanding with necessary or salutary severity. The third is to relieve of the necessary of doing or undergoing something. To spare yourself the trouble would be something like that. Or to refrain from or to avoid. So spared no expense. I always think of a Jurassic Park when I think of that.
Right.
And then the fifth is obviously to use or dispense frugally. So don't spare the syrup is what they use this with. And then the final one that I'll give you is number 6, is to give up as not strictly needed. Or an example of that would be, do you have any cash to spare?
Josh.
I gotta say, the one of the first things, two things, the first things that come up when trying to look into the word a little bit more. One is that Prince Harry's book is going to be a boon for historians, which made a lot more sense the more I looked, because there's very little that's actually been written about the word spare in the context of Harry's use of it in terms of the royal heir and the spare. And the second thing was about spare tires for when you have a flat. I was like, oh, that's not what we're talking about in service. We're not talking about flat tires.
Right.
But there are some really interesting things that do come up when you do find those sort of nuggets that are there, the few that are spare, so to speak. The first one is actually from a dissertation that a graduate student submitted for the University of South Carolina. It's titled "The Heir and the Spare: Impact of Birth Order on Risk Attitudes, Discount Rates, and Behaviors." And actually, for both of these sort of sources for today, they're not in the context of the royal family specifically, but actually just family dynamics. But I think it's actually really interesting to think about it in that frame of mind, because if you can imagine those dynamics just existing in a regular family, just imagine how much more amplified they might be when you're on the royal stage, so to speak. But this was by Erica Morgan and submitted in 2009, and it is very, very long and very data intensive. So if you are into data and tables and all of the analysis behind that type of dissertation, the link is in the show notes. But what was great about what she did was that she took a review of all of the literature to date and then examined the question of that impact of the birth order on risk attitudes from a multidisciplinary approach. And it's interesting because what she found is that when you separate out other factors like family size or socioeconomic status or background, that younger siblings are much more risk tolerant. They are less risk averse, which is something I think a lot of people might know sort of intuitively in terms of first child syndrome, so called, and how younger siblings can behave. But it's interesting to see that it's actually quantified with the data. And I think we're going to get into this, Lady Sussex, but that idea of what did they really want Harry to be doing? What did they want to be able to use him as in terms of that sort of what's the word that's escaping me right now when someone's the one that gets all the blame?
Word when
Scapegoat.
Scapegoat.
Yeah, they wanted him to be able to be this sort of scapegoat, and it's easier to be a scapegoat if the individual you're talking about is much more likely to engage in risky behaviors that gets them into trouble. So that is an interesting thing in that regard. But
actually another great word for that? A foil.
It's true. It is true. It's another good word for that. But it's interesting also when you think about what risk aversion and risk tolerance also translates to, because when you combine Harry's risk tolerance with also his spirit and his love and the fact that he is supported by Meghan, that risk tolerance has really enabled him to step outside of the circumscribed path that was given to him at the beginning, that was allowed him to go and achieve this greatness. So that just that quantification of the fact that he is almost fundamentally less risk averse because of how he came into the family and the fact that he is the spare, and that actually is something that's enabled him to achieve this. So that was interesting.
Absolutely. I was watching a short. I'm not sure exactly what channel that who put it out. I wish I'd remember, and I would actually put it in the show note. But I certainly hope that I bring that again and possibly even play it. It's Harry describing the fact that how many people that he's been around, how many people that he's seen, how many girls, maybe 5 of them, that had get his head torn until he met Meghan. And for me is that, when you think about the word spare, I think it takes a different shape or a different meaning for the media and for the palace, in my opinion. It's almost, I feel like, okay, some people could say, well, sort of you have 2 kids, God forbid something happen, the other one could take charge. And maybe that's what it's supposed to be. But I'm not so sure or convinced this is how they looked at it. And of course, this is my opinion. I don't have any way of knowing that what I'm about to say, that is the case. But based on everything that happened, if they were looking at Harry as the spare who, God forbid, may be getting in power, why would they go after him the way they do? I just felt like spare, meaning that, okay, God forbid something happened to his brother, they probably will kill him and get a heart just to give the brother. Or that he just, whatever, like this is like spare for something, not to replace, but to help the brother.
It's interesting, actually.
You know what I mean?
It's not.
I mean, I think actually Harry actually mentioned that in the book.
Did he?
Yeah, he was actually talking about like spare parts. It's
so
actually being a piece of that.
So to think about, and is that the reason? Is that why the media refused to look at him as the man that he is, as the prince that he is? Because if you go into the book itself, for everything we think imagine what it would be like to live in a palace, or what a prince would be like living in a palace, was completely sort of not true at all. Not that imagination maybe most of us have. Or even when you think that, after him marry with, Meghan, and the fact that, I think one of the thing that, story that they're saying that, when Oprah come and visit and they say they're not gonna believe it. And we didn't know what that actually meant until we see where they were living. It was shocking. It was absolutely shocking when he told the story that he was living in a room, if I'm correct, that barely have light.
Yeah, he was living in the basement.
In a
of Kensington
basement,
Palace. Yeah.
next to where a car, I think that's where his mother used to park, now become somebody else parking or something. It just, you can't imagine that could be the case. That could be the life with that kind of power, with that kind of money, with that kind of, sort of how many room these people they have.
That's actually, it's really interesting because that sets up the next source beautifully, and it ties back to what you're talking about now about like what is the media actually, what's driving their treatment and their behavior. And this second one is actually from a book called Social Roles in Social Institutions, Essays in Honor of Rose Laub-Koser, and it's edited by Judith R. Blau and Norman Goodman, originally published in 1991. And in it, they're actually referencing another book, which is by Jeffrey Rosenfeld, The Heir and the Spare. And they remarked that Rosenfeld's contribution assesses a source of ambiguity and considerable ambivalence in families, inheritance. In contrast with traditional societies where inheritance rules are institutionalized, inheritance in contemporary societies is based on a claim structure that is riddled with complexities. What is especially interesting about this claim structure is that it is cloaked with secrecy and evasiveness. And Rosenfeld links this observation to 2 points. But the first one that we'll focus on is that first, money is not the issue. The anxiety is about status and worth. And it rang so clearly reading that in terms of the context of why the media might be also particularly frustrated with Harry and so upset is that he has, in his risk-tolerant way, gone and stepped out and actually said, I don't necessarily need to, it's not about the money, and I certainly don't need the status or worth as you describe it in this sort of archaic royal structure as it existed in the past. It's really about being of service, and in so doing, in stepping out and actually doing that, Harry and Meghan together created this new structure of status, of worth,
Correct.
of true worth, and have now far exceeded that of King Charles and his brother. And so that is something that they have a really hard time dealing with, because on the one hand he said, I'm fine, I can step back from royal family, and so he said, you can have all of that status, but I'm going to go create this entire new thing over here that's even more valuable and even more worthy.
I will even go further than that. I think, at least in my opinion, that I feel like what Harry represents to them, and certainly it has to be true, that how dare you to be better? How dare you to be better on everything? How dare you to be taking center stage when it should not be about you? It's supposed to be about your brother, but yet somehow you keep shining. How dare you keep reminding us that we're not good enough? And to have the nerve to marry a woman that will even push this even further. A reminder of what we've been telling people. The whole thing about being a princess, being royal. And all of a sudden is that, we all looking small. Because you are making us look small. You make us very, very small. And you marry with a woman that we feel like was inferior. But somehow show so much grace, so much poise, so much beauty, so much everything that, we have convinced ourselves that, we are. And she showed us that, no, you're not. Whether it's by her simplicity, and it's not, it's not enough to just talk about how beautiful this woman is, because she certainly is. She is much more than that. She's a force to reckon with. She is everything that you know when you think, at least for myself, I could only speak for myself here. When I think about what my mother mission in the world, what she wanted it to do, what she wanted me to realize that, you know what, you have to pay it away. You have to stand up for something. Otherwise you upset everything. Or that, she wanted me to, just because if I make, $5 or if I make $1 million, that's not what going to make you. What is going to make you is your character. What's going to make you, it's recognize that, the path that God created for you, that you need to open doors. You need to do something with it. And for Megan, she recognized that very early on in her age, since she was 9. She's not new to this. She is true to this by having an incredible mother that support her all the way. And so they don't know what to do with that. Because in my opinion, based on what I've seen, these are people that, who's accustomed of people not only bow to them because they feel so superior, but they also accustomed of people sort of will do anything just to be in their presence or in their shadow. And here this woman coming in, not really impressed. Not impressed. And I feel like they don't know what to do with her. And how dare Harry not bringing someone that was inferior, that we can bash, we can do anything to them, that gonna want to be there, because what we're presenting to these people, we are the Almighty, and forget that there is a God, because they try to play, in my opinion, godlike. After all, they said, if it's the truth, from everything I've heard, they are the chosen one. So how could the chosen one, feeling now inferior to the people that they look to up, and say, you're not good enough or you're not worthy enough, will throw your bone from time to time. And now here you are, reminding, or right in front of everybody, telling us you're not good enough. That is a problem. That is a problem. That is not something that I thought I would be talking about today or yesterday, or even not that I really sort of care that much. But this is the moment that we are living in. We've been forced to see all these things opening, right open. Everything, because I love history. I love English history. I love French history. I love European history. And I will tell you now, based on the action that's happening right now, it forces me now to look at these stories in a very different way now. It really does. It's what they tell me is what I've read was the truth. Was it the way they said it is? I have so much question. And it's almost, I'm bothered by it. I am mad. I am upset. Maybe I wanted to live in my cocoon to want to believe this is thing the way things were. Somehow, maybe that, sort of, I mean, obviously, of course, not the colonial part of it. But this idea that, what, these people supposedly, sort of a descending of God, or sort of, there is like there was a mistake that brings some kind of curiosity about them. Right? There was, when you hear that, the good or the bad, there was a curiosity. Even though many things you heard of are bad, there was something that, you feel like you've been enticed by it, so to speak. And now you're like, what? I don't know if it was the clothes. I don't know if it was, I feel like, do I need to read everything I've read and to actually look at it in a different lens? And I'm mad because this is 2024, where you would expect things would be different, and it's not. And so I think I'm trying to find how I can express myself that I'm mad, even though I don't live in England. That I feel like I am mad because these people chant something that make me doubt everything. It's a big burden. It really is. There is a sense of, yes, we are different. Yes, we probably don't eat our dinner with silver or gold spoon. But there was something for many of us that was attractive. Maybe it's because of the story we've been told all our lives, especially for girls. This idea that, you are a princess and you're going to grow up and you're going to marry a prince, or you sort of kind of have that fantasy in your mind, what it would be like to actually marry a prince. And I feel like they killed that for me. They killed that for me. And so I don't know whether I should be happy about it, whether I should be mad about it.
Well, they killed it, but maybe Harry and Meghan have revived it and recreated it.
They certainly do, but in a much more bigger scale. But what they actually tell me, I don't need to be a part of this kingdom, this royal, to truly be a queen, to be a princess. And what is the meaning of it all? Is it all about wearing clothes and beautiful lipstick and have 4 or 5 different sort of lady in waiting dressing you up? What is it actually is? And so for me, that understanding of service, for the first time in my life, that I feel I truly understand what it means to be of service, to serve. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in the military, which I use for whatever the reason, think that is the only time that you serve. And certainly, I am so grateful for all those men and women that risked their life to serve us. And so I always looked at service in that lens. And so what Harry and Meghan did, it's redefined what it means to serve. And service is universal. And every single one of us can serve in any capacity.
I don't know if they actually redefined it, because it's a factual word. It is to be of service. I think they've actually just illuminated it because it's been so sheltered for so long that people just, it was this word that was kind of just bandied about and applied to certain individuals and not taken as seriously. And I won't, and I'm not speaking to, our men and women in the armed services and these kinds of
Not
things.
at
I'm
all.
thinking specifically against kind of like the royalty and those kinds of people who basically have, don't really deliver on that promise. But I think they really kind of exemplify what their title really means. And they've really pushed it to the limit in terms of what they could possibly do and then how they could actually really represent themselves as well as they could. Now, for what you were saying earlier about, the press and basically like why they do the way that they are and why he's treated the way that he is and Meghan as well, of course. Him being the spare, I think my own personal opinion, and it's just my own opinion and conjecture, is that I think that they're so pissed at Harry, they being the media are so pissed at Harry, is because I don't think that he's doing the job that they thought he should be doing. I think the job that they wanted Harry to be is what I mentioned to George a little while ago, is to be that foil, is to be the person that they can kind of push all the bad press onto, is push
Well,
off
that's
all
what I
these other
said.
things.
But how dare you to be
But-
better and not want to upset less than?
Right.
Less than. Because in fact, and if you see, like from since he was a baby, he was always good at everything. And the thing is, he wasn't almost like, it wasn't like he went to sort of like, look at me and look at how amazing that I am. Not at all. Harry has a confidence, and that's what probably sometimes get me so upset. The fact is that, what, sometimes I feel like part of the media looked at every single person and really looked at us as if like we're stupid. And that's probably the reason why that I think that, they think of Harry, that's what you should be, stupid. Because how can you explain? We are living in an age where you can Google things. Harry have lived his life on camera since his mom, before his mom passed away. We pretty much in so many ways know so much about this man. And the stuff that we didn't know, we certainly read it in Spare. Right? And yet, very often than not, they try to convince us some garbage thing. Like, for an example, his service. What he has done for his country is as though that it never happened. I don't understand it. How could you think that, what, these days that would be fly? Where is the respect for the servicemen that who serve with him? Where is the respect for the people that who care about the servicemen? Men and women, of course. Where is the respect for everyone that will look up to this man and Harry and Meghan for the wonderful work and everything that they do, and people aware of it, and those that who doesn't know about it? It's easy for them to know. If you say one word, they can Google it. They could see it themselves. How are you getting on stage and try to convince people otherwise? What planet, what world that you guys are living in? It's like it's that stupidity that I think that they refuse to accept that they are inferior. Or I'm not so sure if I'm actually say it right, but I just feel like it's almost like they dare us. They dare us to sort of, not that, I don't even want to say prove them wrong, because we're proving them wrong all the time. It's like they don't really care what we think. They are just going to put their truth out, and that's what it is. So for me, when I looked at the word spare, as much as so many different meanings about it, I just felt like the kind of spare or how I seen the media and many of people from part of that world that who buy into that is that Harry was supposed to be a spare in term of like, take all the blame, take all everything, take, sort of anything bad. You're supposed to be dumb. You're supposed to be stupid. You should not know anything. You should not, like, you're all just there just for that. We're going to beat you until you die. We're going to beat you up. I know I'm being very dramatic. I know I am being sort of, but I don't know how to look at it. And I'm truly really sad about it because the kind of work that Harry and Meghan is doing, it's something that should be making every single media outlet proud. So much to repent on. There's so much wrong going into the world. When you have certain people that will step up that we didn't have to, I would love to see the media take pride, one of their own, actually doing the incredible work. And when you think of the palace, the whole idea of seniority and all these things, whatever, so maybe perhaps once it was the case and it needed to be, but really now there could have been still being that seniority and still enjoy and proud the work that Harry and Meghan is doing. And it would have rubbed on them as if like in some way that they actually the one who's doing it, or they're the one that was allotting, they're the one that was funding it, they're the one that was supporting it. It would have made them look good because it was about them. So that's why I am having so much problem, because I think when you think about, or at least for me here, when I saw the Princess of Wales, when I saw Prince of Wales, when I saw Harry, when I saw Meghan together, and I remember what I felt. We are moving in a different age. Things are about to change. And I often think, what would it look like if those two, Princess of Wales and Meghan, were like sisters? One support another. What would have been the meaning of that for young women, for young girls, for a new world? It would not have changed the fact that she is a queen or queen in making. I even imagine what it would be like of Meghan sort of carrying her, sort of be involved when the coronation, her coronation, that kind of bonding, that kind of like support, that kind of like, I imagine what it would have been like. How much the palace would have gained from that relationship, from that love. And so for me, there was an opportunity for Charles, spite of everything that happened, spite of the wrong, at least many of us felt like he did to Diana. When he agreed to walk Meghan down the aisle, I think for many of us, we buy into what that relationship was going to be like. And we wanted it to be the truth. And we were certainly here to support the palace. And how could they go wrong with that? Because as far as I'm concerned, there still would have been story to tell. The media would have made tons of money because they have a new group of people that was interested, that is interested into wild stuff, that was inspired. So I just don't get it. I don't get it. And so sometimes I feel mad. Sometimes I'm like, why are you mad? It's really not your problem. But I guess it's because I think of the work and who people that would have benefiting from that work, regardless of their past. And when I mean past, the royals' past. And how much, for many people, miss on that. And so, no, to go in full circle, that no, I don't think Harry or Meghan, and now they have two beautiful children. If not for them, at least for their kids, they will want to put them through that. And I think Harry was very clear. He says, my child would not grow up like that. So, Sussex Squad, I know sometimes I don't finish my sentences, or sometimes I put words in a way that could maybe confuse to you guys. But understand really well that I am not naive. Neither I would think or even imagine it would have been a good idea to put the very people that we care and love and we support into a place that will be danger for them. So I hope we are not fighting. I hope you guys still continue writing, because we certainly read everything. And I love you guys. I adore you guys. And so we are now going to move to verse, Charles.
For sure. So for the verse, we are going to be talking a little bit about persecution, which I think that we know oh so well that both Harry and Meghan has been facing quite a lot of. And I think the verse that we chose really exemplifies what he did at the ESPYs, which I think is just rings really true. It's Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who have persecuted you.
And that's what happened on Thursday night. As I said, the speech was an incredible speech. And I wish I did not go down on tantrum too, because I really wanted to speak about the speech. Maybe it will be next week.
Well, there is a lot to say about it, so we'll definitely have to dedicate some full time to it. But for today, to kind of build from Charles's verse into the prayer, we of course pray for everyone who has been affected by the recent storms and who remains in harm's way, whether it be from the unfortunate circumstances they find themselves in, a changing climate, or even just the cost of living, to be with them. And specifically coming out of Harry's grace and love in that speech on Thursday, in which he referenced Nelson Mandela. To take another of Nelson Mandela's quote, that to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. That is something that is abundantly clear that Harry and Meghan have done and continue doing with things like the Invictus. And so we pray for the strength and courage for everyone that is in the Sussex Squad to do the same, to not only support Harry and Meghan in their amazing works, but also to live that ourselves. And to again echo back what Harry himself shared, what so many who have served shared, for whom we are so grateful. On behalf of the entire Sussex Squad and everyone who stands for just truth and goodness, that no matter the road ahead, we are here for you. We will leave no one behind.
Amen. And we'll extend our prayer to, again, continue to Princess of Wales, that she have a full recovery. I believe I heard she's going to be at the tennis match tomorrow. I guess it's the final, the men's final. And I hope she is well. And I truly really want to pray for the palace to find a way, to find some type of explanation to the people who constantly looking at them and asking the question, who are you guys? And I hope they find a way. I hope they find whatever that mistake that once make them feel special. And I pray for King Charles, for him to recover fully. Because after all, God told us we have to pray for everybody. And I think that's where we'll leave it for today. Normally, we will end with a song. But I think the speech was so incredible. It was so amazing. And I know you guys have listened probably many times over, but it's worth listening again because it was a speech that it have its mark and history, and it will live forever and ever because God was present on that stage. When you looked at Harry, when you looked at Meghan, the glow that they have could only existed in the power of the Almighty. That glow was not a natural glow. That was glow that come from the presence of God. So I will leave you guys with King Harry's speech, the spare that become a king. Good day. Happy Sunday. Love Wayne. Goodbye. See you next Sunday.
Whoa, come back. Come back. You guys got to stay here for me. Thank you, Elizabeth, Israel, and Kirsty. Stay here. You need to be with me. I'd like to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to everyone at the Pat Tillman Foundation, led by Marie Tillman Shenton, who I'm so honored is here tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge the Tillman family, especially Mrs. Mary Tillman, Pat's mother. Her advocacy for Pat's legacy is deeply personal and one that I respect. The bond between a mother and son is eternal and transcends even the greatest losses. The truth is, I stand here not as Prince Harry Pat Tillman Award recipient, but rather a voice on behalf of the Invictus Games Foundation and the thousands of veterans and service personnel from over 20 nations who have made the Invictus Games a reality. This award belongs to them, not to me. That said, it is of great importance to me to highlight these allies, athletes, and their amazing families for their achievements, their spirit, and their courage at every opportunity, especially on nights like this, in front of people like you. Moments like these help us reach those that need Invictus most and reduce more than 20 veterans a day taking their own lives in this country alone. For those who may not know, Invictus comes from Latin, meaning undefeated or unconquerable. Nelson Mandela credited the poem of the same name, written by the poet William Ernest Henley, for giving him the strength to endure nearly 30 years of imprisonment. Like that poem, the spirit of the Invictus Games transcends race, time, and borders. It is born from unity and exudes purpose. This year, we're celebrating 10 years of witnessing life-changing impact and healing through sport. And while so much progress has been made since those first games, the world outside seems to be in an even more precarious state. We live in an age marked by polarization and division. Conflicts rage around the globe. Anger and resentment towards those who are different seem to pervade societies everywhere. Our community challenges that. Our community proves that unity is not just possible, but formidable. The beauty of the Invictus Games lies in how it brings people together, no matter one's nationality, background, or personal struggles. It is a collective built from courage and mutual respect, where athletes discover time and time again the common denominator of their humanity. Having survived the crucible of armed combat and forged through the challenge to rebuild bodies and minds impacted by conflict, they form a family. They exemplify the very best in all of us. There is a military expression that dates back to Roman times. I'll spare you another Latin lesson. But the phrases translates roughly to leave no one behind. And they hold particular significance for the US Army's Rangers. And I have no doubt Pat Tillman and his comrades lived by those words. So, it is fitting that I end with them and make a promise on behalf of all of us at the Invictus Games Foundation. No matter the road ahead, we are here for you. We will leave no one behind.